Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's IDEAlliance program. My name is Dave Harridan, and I will be your behind-the-scenes producer for today's event. Our presenter today is Joe Bacana, president, founder of Database Publishing Consultants, Incorporated. You know, Joe began his career in the late 1980s at the New York Times in its production technology group. He furthered his career at the Associated Press as technical services managers for AP AdSend, the digital delivery system from advertisers to AP-membered newspapers. He went on then to become a senior project manager at Image Inc., then senior account manager at Intercom before founding DPCI in April of 1999. He's a native of New York and loves the city up there and has really gotten involved in a variety of conferences and forums in New York City. So, Joe, thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you joining us. Take it away.
Thanks, Dave. Let me tell you a little bit about myself first. I am, as Dave said, president of DPCI, which I founded in 1999, and some of the current projects that we're working on, just to give you a little context of the kind of stuff that we do, we're helping the MPA right now with their magazine.org relaunch of their entire new platform. They're the Association of Magazine Media. I'm also working on with the United Nations on their global content strategy, essentially helping them deliver things like resolutions and journals and all their documentation to delegates and assembly members globally, not only in print, which is what they do today, but on tablets and other devices. And other projects we're working on are with Scholastic on their ebook strategy. We've been helping a few startups like DNAinfo.com, which has been getting a lot of great press recently as a kind of a new media startup. And we've got quite a lot of other projects going on. In all cases, it's around multi-channel content technologies. I've been doing this since 1990. I was definitely the grade school AV guy, although the idea for that was to try to get out of class for a little bit to go to other classes and bring the projectors. It became more of a love for technology. And also, I'm a practitioner in that I'm a pianist and compose as a side thing. So what I'd like to cover today is just first to kind of differentiate what multi-channel strategies mean to different companies or different types of publishers, to talk about some of the technology options that meet the needs of these different multi-channel strategies. There's quite a number of different publishers on this call. I mean, there are actually printers on the call. There's some folks from book publishers, from journal publishers. There's a number of magazine publishers on the call. So it's, as you all know, there's no one-size-fits-all. In fact, I wrote an article for the IDEAlliance, which I think was published last December on that subject, and I'd be happy to send you a link on that, or you can find it on their website. And then I want to go over some low-hanging fruit or things that you can actually do right now that might be able to help your organization to publish in a multi-channel fashion. So today, and this isn't, obviously, there's some of you on the call who are doing a great deal of work in your own organizations or on behalf of other organizations to help them publish to multiple channels or devices. But the usual state of affairs is that either companies are managing their editorial and production content with products like InDesign or Quark Express. They may have legacy content in the form of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pages of Quark or InDesign files, whether it be CS2 files or Quark Express 3.32R5, which, believe it or not, people have hundreds of thousands of assets just sitting on their servers with that content that's just parked there. More importantly, people are still today working with these desktop tools and lovingly handcrafting content on them. Second, and this is particularly within the book publishing industry, although in others as well, there's manuscripts that have been created in Word. There is some exploration happening with OpenOffice and NeoOffice, which is actually kind of exciting that people are taking that leap. There's, I'd say, a good number of magazine publishers, certainly, most of the big guys in the marketplace are using products like Woodwing or K4. They've been around for a number of years. QPS is still out there, and that was a very popular product about a decade ago or so. But still, there's a whole lot of copy-pasting going on. So people are taking content from their page layout programs and pasting into their web CMS and the like. So we all know this issue, which is content being parked in legacy file formats. Many of the calls we get during the week are from companies anywhere in the United States that are looking to find ways to abstract content off of legacy InDesign or Quark files into some kind of an XML format. So the dependencies on how successful your organization is going to be in cross-media, or what your strategy is going to be, is how structured the content is. Can you separate that content from its presentation? So to give you an example, a catalog publisher, they're principally going to have their data structured categorically within some sort of a relational database. It's going to be organized by products or services that are going to be, a few levels deep, based upon the types of products or the business units. Whereas if you're in a K through 12 or K through 5 publishing environment, you may have much of your content driven by layout, such that you don't necessarily have a relation among the different components of content on a page. So another idea is whether the publisher is going to allow for templated mail merge of content. I had the great fortune of working with some folks down in D.C. at a company called Congressional Quarterly, where they had a CTO at the time named Larry Tunks, who very much convinced their CEO to abandon the notion of allowing designers to handcraft pages for the CQ Monitor and other either daily publications or weekly publications. But that really doesn't fly very well when you're in a publishing environment which is highly about fashion, whether it's Elle or Women's Day and so forth. So this is really a fine balance. And of course, the organizations that are in B2B, business to business, or where they're offering a lot of structured information, can achieve these kind of mail merge concepts within their publishing or multi-channel publishing strategy, while it is very difficult to do if you're very design-centric. Not impossible. And of course, the other factor is whether publications are very short or long form. In some cases, we did a project down in Atlanta for a company called Primedia, where they automate ad books, and it was a pretty cool project because advertisements or real estate ads are highly structured, and you can stack them based upon rules, and you can run them through pagination engines where the rules themselves, in terms of where things can be laid out, are easily definable. It's when you get into exceptions in publications that make it difficult. So when we qualify the different types of cross-media channels, some of these you're already familiar with and you live every day. In the case of Marcom, marketing communications, email and Perl, versioning of content is quite relevant. When those cases, print, could be direct mail, could be catalog, could be sell sheets. Email versioning may be less prevalent in book or magazine or journal publishers, except to the extent that marketing needs to reach out to prospective to people who have circulation or subscriptions rather. And then of course TV spot versioning and interactive object versioning. In the case like we did a nice project for Comcast, where all of their marketing communications messaging is centralized in one repository, and all of the communication, whether through print or web or any digital communication, including their TV spots, the text part that is versioned for regions, it's all coming off the same repository. So here are some of the business cases for cross-media publishing. For consumer and enthusiast magazines, the big one today is getting the content to tablets, particularly cross-platform tablets other than just the iPad, but the other ones that are out there, Android and Kindle Fire and so forth. In the past, the magazine market was very, very hard. It was difficult to monetize the communication, or rather dissemination of content through their websites. So they were using that as a way to market the content to hopefully upsell the new subscribers as well as entice the advertisers to stay with them with the synergistic sales of the ad packages. So B2B publishing, as we discussed, there's a wide variety of multi-channel use cases right within B2B because they're publishing not only magazines and books, but directories. They're selling, in some cases, just data feeds. So cross-media becomes extremely urgent for them. K through 12, obviously there's a big moment in time right now where you can deliver textbooks and e-books, but the truth is the way in which students learn is changing, and it's more interactive. So some of the legacy content that some of the big publishers have could be reused, certainly could be cannibalized or drawn upon, but it needs new applications need to be built. Higher ed publishing, STM journals, of course, and then marketing communications I referred to earlier. These are all very achievable from an automation standpoint. So some popular technology options that we're seeing, or that have been in use in the last few years. So first, obviously, for print, there's Adobe InDesign Server is highly popular. It's actually some of you who may already have it in place. If you've got workflow management systems in place, Adobe actually OEMs that technology in a lot of those engines that you already have, including the digital asset management vendors, also OEM their or bundle the Adobe InDesign Server to do certain things. But there are other products out there. Digital Flywheel is one that we built, which allows for companies to create all different types of printed documents through a web interface. XMPy is another one where you could do high volume versioning. And Typify is something that some of you may be familiar with, which is a kind of a product that allows you to do long-form publishing. It's very successful in the book publishing market. Quark Server had been popular. I honestly have lost track of their success in recent years. And then, of course, on the tablet, so ways that people are attacking the need to develop or deliver content across the different devices is with the Android application development and, of course, the iOS app development. Some of you on the call may be familiar with some other technologies, which I'm going to get into momentarily. But for those companies that are not in the know, and let's say companies that may not use InDesign or Quark Express, these options, or custom application development, seems to be the only way to go at the moment. So, and of course, with ebook publishing, aside from service providers out there, be it Cengage or Libre Digital, they're for folks that take the matters in their own hands. For old content, they're using Calibre or Calibre, depending how you want to say it. Well, they'll take old PDF files and convert those into EPUB formats or MOBI formats, and then InDesign creating or implementing workflows to get EPUB format out of at the end of the production cycle. So some of the low-hanging fruit options that are available to us today. First, there was an announcement about a week and a half ago from Apple on the iBooks Author, and I've had a chance to look at that product. I blogged about it, as well as a couple other folks weighed in on it from my staff here at DPCI. It's an incredibly easy-to-use tool to create digital textbooks. The widgets functionality offers a variety of interactive features that you really need if you're creating these new experiences that I spoke of earlier. There's an integration with Keynote for presentations, which in and of itself is definitely a nice feature that signals that Apple will probably continue to integrate some of their other applications with iBooks Author. You can insert HTML5, which I'll get into momentarily what that's about, and content is searchable. So the downsides are pretty obvious. It's iPad only. Their end-user license agreement requires selling through the iBooks store only. And that we'd say in New York, that's major chutzpah. but Apple can pull it off. Essentially, if you use their product, you have to sell through their platform, and then they don't own any title to your intellectual property, only the right, the obligation you'll have to sell through them and redo the work if you're going to be doing it with other platforms. So the walled content garden prevails in this case. It's also really built for textbook production only, so it's not. I mean, you could get it to work for magazine or catalog direct mail use cases, but I think it's really more about textbook, and that's the market they're gunning for. There's font limitations. Certainly can be restrictive in a K through 12, certainly in K through 5, where design is. I'd say K through 12, design is preeminent. And then there's size limitations because the textbooks can get up to 2 gigs, and if your standard iPad or iPad 2 is about 16 gigs, so the users are going to max out pretty quickly. So those are the pros and cons there. The next is the Adobe Digital Publishing Suite. This is a solution that is really gaining rapid adoption in the marketplace. In fact, so much so that a company called Woodwing had a competitive solution, but they adopted the DPS solutions from Adobe, I guess, in the last few months, and they're converting over their customers. So what Adobe Digital Publishing Suite essentially does is offers a platform as a service, integration between InDesign and a hosted solution by Adobe that delivers the issues or the issue files or folio files, depending upon what your terminology is, to any device. So it sort of gets you around the restriction that Apple has of going through their wall and in their way. So Adobe is sort of offering a great benefit to the marketplace. It's very quick to market. You don't need experience with any third-party development platforms like Apple iOS or Google Android. There's a direct integration with Adobe InDesign CS 5.5, so your design and production staff can create publication issues without any development experience, or certainly with minimal experience. Obviously, they have to be adept at InDesign. It's not controlled by any device vendor. I think Apple has a bit of a problem with that, of course. And there are integrations with popular workflow products that some of your companies may have, like K4 or Woodwing. The Adobe Digital Publishing Suite is integrated with that. In fact, Adobe, I believe, is coming out with an integration with their own CMS product or Web Engagement Management product, I think later this year. So the cons are it's a hosted model. There are ongoing costs. Apple is definitely gunning for this business, so it's pretty obvious to any onlookers. So I don't know how that's going to play out. Should be entertaining. And then in the current instance or iteration of DPS, there is no searchability within the issues because they're .png files, although it's rumored that this is going to be addressed in InDesign CS6. I do not have a copy of that, and when I get mine in the next week or two, I probably have to sign a pre-release agreement, so I can't confirm or deny it anyway. And then HTML5 development is, when we think of this as a quick or low-hanging fruit, this is a quick-to-market solution, particularly for organizations that may already have some developers on staff or access to developers. HTML5 is not particularly difficult to learn. You don't need experience with third-party development platforms like Apple iOS or Google Android. It provides enhanced interactive and functional JavaScript capabilities. So when I think of interactive in HTML5, we're talking video, audio, and canvas functionality. And canvas is basically 2D and 3D rendering palette that you can use for things like animations or custom interactive interfaces. So, and when I speak of functional enhancements, I think of you can cache large amounts of data locally on a user's desktop. So people that are normally working through a web application or a web browser, you know, how that frustrating instant in time where you lose your connection or you've lost your work, you can actually store the work locally. And there's a lot more functionality, HTML5, but those are the big ones. And of course, from a business standpoint, it disintermediates the platform vendors. It basically neutralizes it. In the case of some of the vendors, you know, or certainly in Google's case, they're perfectly happy for you to use HTML5. In Apple's case, I think it's more of a, you know, it's an accepted practice to use HTML5, and then of course you can deliver your applications through the browser experience. So the cons to HTML5, it's not a standard yet. So the specification is changing, and in fact there are some conflicts within the specifications group about what should be standardized. For instance, with video, there's a competition among MP4, WebM, or versus OGG, Fiora, or OGG Fiora, as they say, for what will be the primary AV format for HTML5. But so what's happening with a rapidly emerging specification is that it's also forcing rapid changes in and updates to browsers as well. And there's still certain parts of the specification that are in flux. Also, HTML5 is not backward compatible with older browsers, so as more sites are being built with it, user experience issues will increase. And there are third-party libraries for older browsers that can get HTML5 to work. It requires a download, so it's a slight inconvenience. And also, some browsers are not HTML5 optimized, so speed can be an issue. So, for instance, Chrome appears to render video faster than Firefox, for instance. I'm going to show you a very quick demonstration of an HTML5. This is just a demo site that my team worked on. So essentially, this fake brand that we call Home Life has it's pure HTML5. So if you looked at this on your mobile device or your tablet device, then you would have all of the same user experience as you would see here. And you know, some of these cool little features here in terms of hovering over a recipe, and you could see it on a little card. We could probably set up a function where that could get dragged into a recipe box. For entertainment's sake, we've got a little open source movie here. It's a cute little thing we found. This is an open movie. So you didn't come here to see the Big Bunny video, although it is uplifting, I have to admit. And there's a cool functionality with the creating a palette so that you could actually kind of draw. I don't know, I picked the blue, go with the brown. So, you know, obviously this is a kind of a doodle mechanism. And I could save it, and I'm actually saving it. I could save it locally. I could save it on the server. So this is all functionality with an HTML5. So I don't know. Let's flip back to my presentation, and we'll move on. So there's a trend now. The word's composite content applications. I'm pulling back a few years to a statement or a thread that a fellow named Toby Bell, who used to work for Gartner Group, brought out. Now, you know, the analysts tend to get made fun of for making up new acronyms annually, and sometimes they make the acronyms just because they need to get new terrain on the web to win in SEO. So things like web experience management or web engagement management are new inventions that may be the same things. But composite content applications actually struck me as a really great way to describe something that's actually really necessary in our industry, which I'm going to sort of, I wrote some, you know, as I was writing this, I realized that I used a lot of big words here like fungible and manifold, but at the end of the day, content creators and editors work in the tools that they're comfortable with. They don't like to jump out of them and do things. They don't want to work in something that doesn't fit. They don't necessarily want a tag. In fact, you know, 25 years ago or 30 years ago, when people were making applications for word processing, they were hiding the publishers of these softwares hid the tagging from the user and kind of created a graphical user interface to do things like applying character styles or later on paragraph styles and so forth. And then at a certain point in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, we went back to making people do markup, generally XML markup, and they were using products like Hot Metal or X Metal, and I don't know if anybody remembers those products. So a composite content application is essentially the application that you use to get the job done that you're trying to do, and contribute it to some sort of a repository, some media-independent repository, so that that content can be put through workflows independent of what the application it was that created it. And that's very different from an approach like, let's say, a K4 or a Woodwing or QPS, where the primary applications are InDesign and InCopy or Quark Express and CopyDesk. And the notion is that those products are built for print-centric workflows where the outcome can be a print-ready file that can be converted or extracted out for web or for mobile and so forth. But this model is more about using applications like whether it be a NeoOffice or Word or InDesign, et cetera, and putting those through workflows and reuse them. And so the promise of ECM really didn't address these things because those ECM solutions are really now just more about data and capture, records capturing. So we can't really call this an ECM solution. So that's why I like the term composite content apps. I may be the only person on the earth talking about it. Toby is now out of the analyst game, so I'll carry the torch for him. So essentially what you need is a platform to be able to integrate these applications with and push them through workflows. So there's you can use the Adobe products, certainly the Microsoft Office products, but how about OpenOffice or Zoho, Google Docs? Certainly you should be able to put Google Docs through workflows. I don't know if anybody uses PiratePad here. Balsamic, which is a wireframing tool, or Axure. These are applications that, in fact, in some cases you can actually check in, check out, and do versioning of wireframes, which I think is the right way to go. And those are content creation tools in our modern day. There are dozens and dozens of other products ranging from applications that will create stoichiometric equations to CAD tools and so forth, and they all should share the same principle of yielding a media-independent version of that asset that could be used across channels, and they should be readily movable through workflows. So, and actually I wanted to say one more thing about that, is that there is the one folks that are sort of doing that now. Woodwing has this product called Content Station, which you can kind of do that. In K4 you could push Word files and Acrobat files through workflows, and you probably could build connectors to check in and out assets through the K4 engine. But with Woodwing you can actually use Content Station to put things through workflows out of the box. You wouldn't have to build a connector. Again, I'm not trying to sell any product to you in there. I'm just telling you what I've seen with both of those solutions. So the impediments to the cross-media publishing, certainly when content's not centralized, if it's parked on the design file, that's obviously a real problem. Certainly going forward, you want to be able to develop a strategy where you can centralize that content, ideally structure it. The other thing is if it's not enriched or tagged in some way. So people can certainly manually tag content to define its meaning and what you'll find in there. But there's certainly automated processes or entity extraction technologies out there to allow you to do that. And there are quite a number of publishers, certainly in the scientific and technical manual publishing, that have deployed these types of text mining engines to do sentiment analysis or entity extraction. With catalog or direct mail or anything that's really highly structured content becomes less relevant than if you have expository writing or writing which in and of itself we have to abstract meaning from. And the challenge we have is when that content gets pushed downstream to an Aptara or some company offshore that let's say does the keystroking for eBooks, let's say, some of that meaning gets lost because you've got highly skilled typesetters or folks that can re-keystroke into the right formats, but they can't apply meaning. So to be able to apply the meaning or to pull the meaning out of that kind of a content is really helpful for dynamic multi-channel publishing and certainly for mashups. Certainly with cross-media, there can be great challenges around workflow. Then we've got the automation versus design imperative, which as we go down the continuum of layout-driven product is something that your organization has to find that happy medium. Nobody can tell you that, and it's just I think it depends upon what the objectives are for delivering the content across channels. So a few things I wanted to show you. These are in our R&D lab that we're working on. There's two things I want to show you. This could be done, doesn't have to be done with Drupal. It just so happens we picked Drupal to build this on, but we've done a couple of integrations that I wanted to show you. And so the concept here is to be able to round-trip content. So folks are authoring within Drupal, and they're authoring within an InDesign environment. And so what we thought about was, well, what it would be like is if you could kind of make that independent so that the content that you were authoring in either side could sync up on both sides. So let me show you that, and then I'll jump directly to this other concept which is more structured content flowing in through InDesign server. So it's a different use case. So I'm going to jump over to, you should see an InDesign spread. This is CS5 actually. I didn't upgrade I have 5.5 on my laptop, but not on this machine. So I'm going to log into Drupal right now. This is actually Drupal 7 I'm logging into, for anyone who's familiar with Drupal. And so we have a palette here with the available nodes within Drupal, and we built some filters in terms of whether it's an article, page, who it was created by, and certainly we can create any filters we want or offer a browse. We simply were showing this for within our proof of concept or our pilot application. So I'm going to take a look at this one article. I saw a little note that there was new updates, so somebody must have edited this article on the within Drupal. I can actually get a little copy-paste here. I can view the image if I want. And I've got the title. So it's really nothing more than just clicking on my head frame and updating. I'll click on the body copy frame. And then I'll click on this picture frame, and I clicked the wrong thing. I have to click that one. And there we've got our article. So if I want to copy edit it in some way, United Nations Security Council resolution that could call on Syrian President Bashar, say immediately. And so this is aware. We can do things like sense copy changes. We even can sense copy fit, but that's all for future work. But if I click here on this push changes, it knows that I only updated the body of the article. I didn't touch the image or the head. So I've pushed it. I'm pushing that change back to Drupal, and I'll go to Drupal right now, and I'm going to actually do a refresh of my page. And let's zoom in to this article, and I think I wrote to relinquish power immediately. I don't remember what the other change I made. Yeah, I changed it from UN to United Nations. And then the other thing we can see is if we look at, sorry, I'm zooming in and out here. If we look at the revisions, then you'll see that at 2:40 p.m. on February 1st, Jay Bahana made a revision. There's a module called the diff, which actually would show what those revisions were, but we can actually do revision control directly from within Drupal as well, and we could pass that information to InDesign. So projected, this is the kind of thing that you can interact or integrate with InCopy, with Microsoft Word, with Neo Office or Open Office, and so it goes back to the notion of your composite content application allowing you to do authoring. Certainly you could do this with Photoshop, right, if you're manipulating assets or Illustrator and so forth. And then the idea is to be able to modify in a bidirectional way based upon rules and workflows that you define. So that's that. And then as far as the InDesign server side, this is an implementation of Digital Flywheel, which is web services we built around InDesign Server, interacting with Drupal again. And so the idea of I could create a new document. So this use case is for direct mail, although it could be used for any kind of structured content. So I'll search for a cell phone campaign, and I've got some templates here, so I'll pick the blue one. Call it that. I could select existing data or write my own. So just for argument's sake, and by the way, you can automatically flow data in. So what I've done is the data is a node or content within Drupal. Sorry, I've got to log in. I've got to use my so you'll see that it generated this piece, which is essentially an InDesign file where we flowed in some data. The data here is Joe Bahana. We noticed you're using 400 fewer minutes and low plan. So I could change this to Dave Harridan, change this to 200 minutes. Of course, all this can be automated. And I'm flowing this same data. Again, I've updated the record within Drupal here, but that data is getting updated on the InDesign file via InDesign Server. So there's a direct interaction between InDesign Server. There might be a bug here because that still says 400 fewer minutes, but you could get the idea. And actually, there's an integration here that I probably won't get into today of the images are actually integrated with an open source digital asset management system called Intermedia. So that's for another day. But for us, we see all these systems as being interconnected. So let me stop sharing that. I'll go back to the presentation. So at the end of the day, we see this still being about workflow. And when I think of innovations continuing to emerge, where media-independent workflow engines will be used to manage flexible data file types in situ, in their place. So instead of us jumping out and working within a rich text editor, and there were some advancements a few years ago with things like Air apps or Silverlight, like there was, or Flash. I mean, really Air at the end of the day, where you could build a kind of a quick desktop application to post structured data to your repository. What I think is going to be the opportunity, and a lot of folks have said workflow is dead or it's not going to be as relevant. The more I see it, and the more work I do with startups or companies that are in modern media paradigms, workflow means everything to them. And for them, the flexibility of having authors or editors or designers or production people working anywhere on the earth, with the application tools that they need, to me it seems like the opportunity is going to be the workflow engine integrated with the content repository, and that outcome files, however they're going to be curated, are going to be immediately mashable or mash-upable and publishable to any channel. And so cross-media delivery, when I say proceeds, it continues to be more about channel connectors and converters. So you're going to see there are companies that are still selling whole monolithic systems that could be $1 million, $2 million, or more. But at the end of the day, I think that the connectors are going to be what's more valuable. And the companies that build these connectors, whether it be a digital asset management company or a large content management company, or companies like Adobe who already have the assets in CRX and Communique, those connectors to delivery channels are going to be wildly successful in the next couple of years. So I have finished my work in terms of the presentation content, and I'd like to open it up to questions.
Well, Joe, this is Dave. Thank you very much. Really a great presentation. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there, so I really appreciate you sharing that with us. If you all do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and chat those in. Several of you have already sent a few questions in, so let me go ahead and get started with those. Joe, first question is the InDesign and Drupal connector available now?
Well, we haven't. It's not a product. We've built it as a prototype. This is something I've been talking about in the industry for a couple of years, but the work we're doing is going to be anything we do on the Drupal side, we're going to contribute under the GNU GPL, so it's going to be open source. So it'll be readily downloadable off of the Drupal.org site. We can't do this for every CMS out there, so we just picked Drupal. It could be probably redone for WordPress or any of the other popular ones. And then on the InDesign side, currently the strategy has been implemented with libraries and scripts, although there is more opportunity functionally to build a module, or rather a plugin, I should say. And also there are some licensing restrictions with Adobe that we must adhere to with respect to how we integrate with open source. So we haven't decided what we will do if we create a plugin. We're really a service company and an innovation company. We're not really a product company, although a lot of people say we should be. So.
Okay, that sounds good. Next question is, the Apple and Adobe solutions that you referred to are built on closed content platforms. Is this short-sighted by us if we implement these solutions now?
That's a good question. Well, I have to separate the two, because the Apple solution that the questioner is referring to is iBooks Author, and it's a phenomenal tool. It's terrific to use, and I think for anyone who's creating a book at home, it's probably going to be great for disintermediating book publishers. And if there's any book publishers on the line, we all know that could be the case. To be able to sell your own book through the iBook store is analogous to folks selling their music through CD Baby or iTunes. But I have concerns, even though there are major publishers' names behind the iBook Author strategy. I think it is short-sighted to go that route, because the concern I have is, well, first off, if you've got enough manpower or labor power to do the work more than once, go for it. Or if your strategy is just going through iPad and not worrying about the other devices, then go for it. But if you have limited production resources or costs, the concern I have for having to redo the work might outweigh this. Now, if the publisher does go forward using that product, I think they also have to weigh the consequences of being able to extract out that content into a reusable file format. I think you can get EPUB out of the iBooks Author. Honestly, I have to look. I tried to do that when I did my review of the product a week and a half ago, and I couldn't figure out a way to do that, but I'm sure there probably is. But again, it's the licensing restriction that you're really not allowed to. So my concern is parking assets into and locking them for future use, which is the problem we have when folks have content in old Quark Express 3.3.2 RF5 files. I remember that version very well because it keeps rearing its ugly head. Now, with respect to Adobe Digital Publishing Suite, if you're a company that's already working with an InDesign, I think your exposure is fairly low because you're already working within that product. You may or may not have addressed getting the content out of InDesign and into some media-independent format, but you're not really doing any harm by doing production with DPS using InDesign. And in fact, you're kind of getting a benefit there because you're able to traverse all of the major tablet devices. So is it short-sighted on the Adobe side? I don't think so. I think it's actually very timely.
All right, very good. What companies other than magazines are using the Adobe Digital Publishing Suite?
Oh, there's a wide variety of universities have been adopting it. There's been religious institutions and organizations, and they're publishing formats other than magazines. They're delivering newsletters and so forth. There has been a number of companies have approached us that are trying to do or trying to deliver things like sell sheets or fact sheets to their field, and they don't have a multi-channel, kind of automation solution in place, so they're looking for quick ways to get things like product information out to their field sales reps or marketing people. So those kinds of use cases are available, and I don't know if book publishers are using it or not. It doesn't seem like it would be a fit. I think magazines are the best case for them, but there could be great examples of how to use DPS for things like sell sheets or fact sheets and so forth.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right, we got a couple more questions. If anybody else does have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and chat those into me. But next question is, how are companies leveraging their existing workflow management systems when implementing the composite content applications that you mentioned?
That's a good question, too. Okay, so I'll give you an example that I've seen in Woodwing that I think is interesting, and I'll give one in K4 too, actually, because I know of one there. But in Woodwing, you could take this product. So they have interactions with InDesign and InCopy, and it's certainly print destined, and they've got these connectors to spit content out into XML format for other CMSs, and both K4 and Woodwing do the same thing in that regard, although they do it differently. But with Woodwing, they have a product called Content Station, as I mentioned earlier, where you can actually work with a file, let's say a Neo Office file, which is the Mac variant of OpenOffice, and you could check it in. And the Content Station senses the application, so when you try to check it out through the Content Station, it will launch the product, or rather the file, I should say, within the file type or file creator application, and you can actually put the file through routing or status changes as you normally would with any file that's within Woodwing. The challenge with that approach is you've got to work within this dashboard of Content Station. K4, you can check in files like Microsoft Word or PDF files and send them through workflows. It's a similar challenge. You've got to do it through their interface. So I'm going to go back to the future, or go to the back to the future. I'm going to go back 15 years, or however many years ago, when this product QPS, anybody who's on the call who's been around that long remembers these files or these modules called QCCMs. And what they were this is like 92, 93, maybe 94. They were plugins in the Macintosh desktop with library elements that would let you check in and out any file right within the application. So if you were working within Word or Dreamweaver or, gosh, I don't remember. I mean, PageMill was an application back then. If there was a QCCM for that particular application, you could stay within the application and check it in and out. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I thought that was the coolest thing 20 years ago, and I think that that's the coolest thing today, which is how cool would it be if whatever application you're in, you could check in and out your assets, put them through any workflows that are standardized within your organization that matter in terms of the way your company sees how content should be curated. And whatever you do when you check in the asset, the system makes sure that the content that you've stored is stored in a neutral way. So as far as leveraging the existing systems, I think you could make modest gains if you wanted to start looking at composite content applications with leveraging your Woodwing and K4 investments. But I also think that your organization is probably better served looking for these other solutions that are emerging, or possibly even doing some of the R&D yourselves to allow the workflows to be independent and to manipulate and interact directly from within the applications. As we just showed you, for instance, with InDesign and Drupal, it didn't really matter that Drupal was the repository. It could have been a MarkLogic repository. Could have been anything. We just picked Drupal because we have a lot of expertise with that here, and we contribute to that community.
Sounds good. All right, still got a couple more questions. You mentioned it's still about workflow. What do we do if our current workflow systems do not support these emerging multi-channel technologies?
I think I might have just answered that. I think that you can't. The workflow platforms people have currently are not cheap. They're a few $100,000 to, or if you're a small company, maybe you spend 30 to 50K, but there's an ongoing maintenance you've got to pay. So I think in this case, it's just staying attuned to what's happening in the industry. I'm sure there's other companies besides DPCI that are doing innovations in this space. I've often thought about doing some sort of a small mini conference here in New York City to bring like minds together and see if we can get a working group on this. There is the NextPub platform that the IDEAlliance folks have that, we've talked about, Dave.
Yep, right.
But I think it comes down to you could sit and wait for the innovations to happen or maybe get involved and make the investments.
Got it. Okay. All right, last question that we've got here. Have you seen any CRM integration that tailors the appropriate medium as well as content?
Yeah, there was a cool one. So from a CRM integration, if you have it depends obviously on the use case, but I'll pick one where if you have a campaign that you need to send communications in the form of, let's say, direct mail or advertising to different subsets, and it's different versioned information, then you can actually run automated processes to do these merges based upon the CRM. So in two cases, Primedia had their own CRM. I think it was a Microsoft Dynamics CRM, but I remember it was a CRM, but I wasn't on the project. One of my team leads ran that project, but they had a CRM which actually does drive the production of those real estate ads, and in fact, they manage the CRM actually manages the billing and relationships. So the CRM is integrated with their e-commerce system. So if one of their customers came in and purchased something, they can track that through the CRM and then automatically spawn off the publication. We're doing that with DNAinfo.com right now as well, where they're using Salesforce. And Comcast has some way to do that as well, although we didn't build that piece. Another one of their partners built that. So CRM integration is a really powerful way of driving the high-volume customizations, particularly if you have highly structured content and really well-formed templates, and you've got rules about what content goes to which customers. You can get down to the very granular level. You can version legal disclaimer, you can version pricing, you can version technical information, creative information, pretty much anything you want. And so that's totally doable today. As to how this would be done in book or magazine publishing use cases, I haven't really thought about that.
All righty, Joe, I think that's all the questions we've got for today. So, hey, thank you very much. This has really been a great program. I think this whole environment of changing the publishing paradigm from print to multi-channel is really powerful. So thank you, everybody, for being with us today. We really appreciate it. This has been a great program that I've really enjoyed, and I hope you have too. Joe, thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time on an IDEAlliance webinar. Please check our website to make sure that you find what the current programs are. You should all be on our mailing list, of course. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.